This is GPS, the Global Public Square. Welcome to all of you in the United States and around the world. I'm Fareed Zakaria. Last Sunday, I talked about the 9th anniversary of 9/11. This week, we mark the 2nd anniversary of the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Now, there's been lots written about whether this was a bigger turning point than 9/11, and of course, whether it was a huge blunder. But I want to focus on the month after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, when Washington, incredibly, actually worked. Let's remember what happened in those weeks. It was pretty grim. Credit came to a standstill. Banks simply stopped lending. Companies couldn't get their hands on short-term loans to just pay their employees and suppliers. Private sector borrowing, which is the heart of modern economics, dropped more dramatically than at any point since the 1930s. The effects on the broader economy were massive. In the fourth quarter of 2008, real GDP dropped by 6%. The American economy lost 1.7 million jobs, which is the largest drop in 65 years, and net household worth dropped by $5 trillion, the largest and fastest such drop ever recorded. The crisis was spreading everywhere. There was a contraction of global trade larger than in the first year of the Great Depression. In the middle of this crisis, after a week or so of failure, Democrats and Republicans came together. George Bush was working with Barney Frank, and together we passed a huge rescue package that began to restore stability to the system. Now, the Troubled Assets Relief Program, TARP, may not have been exactly the right idea or even the right amount, but in the midst of a galloping crisis and an accelerating loss of confidence, it saved the day. It sent a signal to markets that government would, in the end, guarantee the financial system and that betting against the system, shorting the financials, would not work. We've ended up with a bad recession instead of a depression, with 10% unemployment instead of what the former Fed Vice Chairman Alan Blinder estimates could have been 25% unemployment, as in the 1930s. Oh, and by the way, it will cost the government almost nothing, a fraction of the appropriated $700 billion, because the financial system recovered so fast that most of the government's investments will make a healthy profit. The ultimate proof that TARP worked, of course, is that it is now widely seen as unnecessary. Republicans now say, "What crisis? There was no crisis. We didn't need to do anything." Democrats run away from it because the public hates the idea of having given money to banks. And thus, the most effective bipartisan government program of recent decades is now a lonely orphan claimed by no one. It's a pity, because we need more of this kind of bipartisan problem solving that TARP represents, not